welcome. I'm Geeta Mohan and you're watching World Today. It's been a bloodbath in the markets. Across the globe, markets are in a tailspin as they grapple with an escalating tariff war between two largest economies, the US and China. In what is now typical Trump 2.0 trading style, in the space of about 15 minutes, the S&P 500 today flipped from a 4% loss to a modest 2% gain on the day and back to a 1% loss. The latest catalyst looks like a headline from a news report which quoted White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett as saying Trump is considering a 90-day pause on the imposition of tariffs on Asian countries minus China. But White House officials have come out and rejected the report, saying that they are not aware of Trump considering a 90-day pause in tariffs for all countries except China, and Wall Street's main indices fell back into the red in choppy trade. US President Donald Trump on Monday posted on Truth Social that he will impose an additional 50% tariff on China if Beijing does not withdraw its retaliatory tariffs on the United States of America. He wrote, and I quote, "Additionally, all talks with China concerning their requested meetings with us will be terminated. Negotiations with other countries which have also requested meetings will begin taking place immediately." In an earlier Truth Social post, Trump said the Federal Reserve should cut rates and claimed that oil prices, interest, and food prices were down. In this economically interdependent world, the heaviest price is being paid by retail investors across the globe. Be it India, Australia, South Korea, Japan, China, and in the US, investors have lost trillions of dollars in hard-earned savings as markets price in a global slowdown, maybe even a recession in the US.
It's been a day of superlatives for the stock markets. Biggest sell-off since COVID, steepest weekly decline in years, longest losing streak in over a year. Nifty opened gap down, plunging up to 1,160 points or 5.1%. The BSE Sensex fell nearly 4,000 points before recovering later in trade. Investor wealth of a whopping 19 lakh crore rupees was wiped off. All sectors were in the red. While the root of the chaos is the massive burden of Trump tariffs across the globe, other elements have added tadka to the mix. China rattled world markets by retaliating with its own 34% tariffs. Beijing's stance that it will not fold under pressure has sparked concerns of an all-out global trade war. The trade war is also expected to drive up inflation, shrink corporate profits, and hit consumer sentiments. There could be a delay in rate cuts and, in the worst-case scenario, lead to a global recession. Every major stock market around the world was deep in the red on Monday, especially after Trump's comment on bitter medicine.
What's going to happen with the market, I can't tell you, but I can tell you our country has gotten a lot stronger. And eventually, it'll be a country like no other. It'll be the most dominant country economically in the world. I don't want anything to go down, but sometimes you have to take medicine to fix something.
Meanwhile, Indian investors now have their sights on the RBI rate decision on Wednesday. Even the US president is rooting for a cut in interest rates. In a post on Truth Social, Donald Trump demanded the Federal Reserve chairman cut rates. Citing a drop in inflation and energy prices, he asked Jerome Powell to stop playing politics and slash interest rates, triggering this comeback from Powell.
So let me just be clear at the start. I make it a practice not to respond to any elected officials' comments, so I don't want to be seen to be doing that. It's just not appropriate for me.
The pushback by the Fed chair added to Wall Street woes, with investors more uncertain of a rate cut by the US central bank than ever before. Jerome Powell made it clear that he was not towing Trump's line, saying the tariff hike were larger than expected, leading to higher uncertainty and a rise in downside risks. He also said that this could lead to a return of high inflation and slower growth.
We'll continue to carefully monitor the incoming data, the evolving outlook, and the balance of risks. We're well positioned to wait for greater clarity before considering any adjustments to our policy stance. It is too soon to say what will be the appropriate path for monetary policy.
Central banks around the world are in thick soup after Trump's tariff shocker. Before the announcements, most had taken a dovish stance, with most post-COVID challenges easing. The tariffs, which most agree will lead to higher prices and uncertainty around the world, adds more confusion into the mix. Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
Now, China has called the US tariff a bullying effect on world economy. EU wants to negotiate while they remain prepared to defend their tariff policies. Here's how countries reacted on global market bloodbath with regards to the Trump tariff.
The Chinese government strongly condemns and firmly opposes such actions. The US approach is a typical act of unilateralism, protectionism, and economic bullying, which causes harm to others while backfiring on itself.
These tariffs come first and foremost at immense costs for US consumers and businesses. But at the same time, they have a massive impact on the global economy. Especially hard hit are the developing countries. And this is a major turning point for the United States. Nonetheless, we stand ready to negotiate with the United States. Indeed, we have offered 0 for 0 tariffs for industrial goods, as we have successfully done with many other trading partners, because Europe is always ready for a good deal, so we keep it on the table. But we are also prepared to respond through countermeasures and defend our interests. And in addition, we will also protect ourselves against indirect effects through trade diversion.
Well, Shailendra Bhatnagar, markets editor for Business Today, joins me on this big global story. Shailendra, thank you so much. Now, the fact is that, is this the 90-day hiatus story kite flying by White House, or are they trying to test waters?
Well, Geeta, firstly, thank you for having me over. But the White House has said, and I quote, that this is fake news. So there is no 90-day waiting period for all countries apart from China. It's just that this was labeled as fake news, and the markets have accordingly reacted. You remember when NASDAQ opened today, it was down 4%. Then on this news, it went all the way up 5%. So there was a 9% swing from -4 to +5, and it is now down about 1.5%. Similarly, S&P 500 and the Dow Jones indices are down between 1.7 and 2.1%. This is injecting unnecessary volatility. And now, as you mentioned very rightly, there is news that on top of 34%, there's another 50% tariff threat on China effective April 9th, which is Wednesday. April 8th is 34%. April 9th is additional 50%.
Well, but Shailendra, a quick reaction. Do you think America has the wherewithal to absorb all this? I mean, if there are losses across the world, it's being faced by billionaires, by investors and businesses in America as well. Trillions of dollars.
Well, let me give you the exact number. It's $50 trillion that's been wiped out of American shareholder wealth simply by statements that have come in from President Trump. No, they cannot absorb it, but what can one do? You see, this is a statement coming from a single man sitting in White House and dictating across the world. You mentioned billionaires. The magnificent seven companies in the US, which includes Tesla, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, Google, Nvidia, have collectively lost $2 trillion in market capitalization. And in the last 1 month or so, $7 trillion in market capitalization. Everybody is bleeding. The entire cahoots of US top billionaires, fund managers, hedge managers are now actually writing notes. Jamie Dimon, who heads JP Morgan, says we are headed for lasting negative consequences because of this tariff war. It will lead to a loss of reputation for the US. Bill Ackman, who's a hedge fund manager, he's a billionaire himself, goes further. He says we are looking at an economic nuclear winter.
A nuclear winter and a massive loss of image for the United States of America. Shailendra Bhatnagar, thank you so much for joining us for now, but we'll keep coming back to you on the biggest story that's unfolding in the world and affecting global markets, and that has to do with Trump tariffs. Shifting focus. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is in Washington, D.C. to meet with President Donald Trump. This is his first visit to the White House since President Trump came back to Oval Office. The Israeli premier met U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick in Washington on Sunday as soon as he arrived in the U.S. Netanyahu hopes that Trump will ease tariffs imposed on Israel when the two meet. Under a sweeping new tariff policy announced by Trump, Israeli goods also face a 17% U.S. tariff. The U.S. is Israel's closest ally and largest trading partner. Netanyahu, who has spent the last few days visiting Hungary, hopes to speak to the U.S. president about release of Israeli hostages still held in Gaza after 18 months. While Netanyahu is in America seeking its closest ally support, there are protests going on in Tel Aviv asking and demanding release of hostages as Monday marked 1.5 years of the Hamas attack on the 22nd of October 2023. Israel since then has launched one of the deadliest train of attacks on Palestinians, killing more than 50,000 people. And after a brief ceasefire, it still goes on.
Palestinians across the West Bank and Jerusalem held a general strike in solidarity with Gaza on Monday. And Israelis protested in front of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's residence in Jerusalem, marking a year and a half since the October 7, 2023 Hamas attack. They gathered holding up placards and calling the names of the remaining 59 hostages held in Gaza, calling on Netanyahu government to release them now.
Near the Prime Minister Netanyahu's house 1.5 years after October 7. 59 hostages are still in captivity, and we call upon the President of the United States and the Prime Minister of Israel to bring them all home now. It's been too long.
Caught between the strike and counter-strike of Israel and Hamas, people mourned their lost ones and those who are still living in captivity.
Today is a strike for our brothers in Gaza. Do you think if we hold a strike, they will actually stop the siege on Gaza? May God be with them. All the Arab people are supporting Israel while Gaza is being annihilated and no one cares. We are the weakest people.
Israel struck tents outside 2 major hospitals in the Gaza Strip overnight, killing at least 2 people, including a local reporter, and wounding another 9, including 6 reporters. 28 other people were killed in separate strikes across the territory. Hamas said it fired a barrage of rockets at cities in Israel's south on 6th of April in response to Israeli massacre of civilians in Gaza. Israel's military said about 10 projectiles were fired, but most successfully intercepted. The war in Gaza began when Hamas fighters stormed into Israeli communities on October 7, 2023, killing 1,200 people and capturing more than 250 hostages. Since then, Israel has reduced much of Gaza to ruins and killed more than 50,000 Palestinians. And it still goes on after a brief ceasefire. Bureau Report, India Today.
From coast to coast, Americans are saying hands off. 500,000 people took to the streets this weekend in the biggest anti-Trump protests since his re-election. But this time, it wasn't just the chants that made headlines. It was the signs, clever, sarcastic, and savage. Here's a list of the top 10 signs that are going viral from the hands-off protests.
From Washington, D.C. to Seattle, Boston to LA. An estimated 500,000 Americans marched under one banner, hands off. The protests were fueled by growing anger over Donald Trump's and Elon Musk's policies. But this agitation did not just showcase America's anger with the Trump administration. The protests also highlighted the wit of those who are voicing their concern against Trump and Musk. Let's run through the 10 funniest protest signs spotted at the hands-off marches. First up, demonstrators turned Trump's baseless claims about Haitian immigrants eating people's pets on their head, flipping the narrative into a biting critique of his administration. Then came the caricature of Trump's team comparing his cabinet to IKEA cupboards and shelves. Then there was a protester who took a not-so-subtle dig at Trump imposing tariffs on uninhabited islands near Antarctica. There were also placards of Orange Lives Matter, symbolizing the misery of everyday Americans due to Trump and Musk's draconian policies. Wordplays were on full display at the rallies, just like this one, mocking tech mogul Elon Musk. The sky-high cost of eggs was another issue addressed at the protests. Protesters even held up signs to apologize for the actions of their American leaders. Moreover, things got so bad that even introverts stepped out. Agitator even took a dig at J.D. Vance for calling Kamala Harris supporters a bunch of childless cat ladies. And finally, a placard placed on a pet dog taking a dig at Musk's Department of Government Efficiency. So, with over 500,000 Americans mobilized across the country, the message was loud and clear and cleverly captioned. With Rudra Shrish Kanjilal, Bureau Report, India Today Global.
US President Donald Trump is the all-time favorite person of the internet. Anything that he says or does goes viral instantly. While netizens leave no stone unturned to roast President Trump through their hilarious memes, President Trump seems to be enjoying the social media attention himself. Here's a look at few most viral and hilarious internet Trump moments.
US President Donald Trump's tariff announcement has set the global economy on edge, but the internet is going meme crazy, poking fun at Trump's trade move. While the memes are thriving, global markets are panicking. Orange Monday memes took over internet like a storm as global markets crashed after President Donald Trump announced sweeping reciprocal tariffs last week. This has sparked fears of a financial meltdown reminiscent of the infamous 1987 Black Monday crash. An ex-user wrote, "When Donald Trump intentionally crashes the stock market, you don't call it Black Monday, it is Orange Monday." Internet went crazy with its hilarious Orange Monday memes.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning We have to win more. We're going to win more.
While governments around the world panicked and stock markets tumble, the US president spent the weekend at the Trump National Golf Club in Jupiter, Florida, where he participated in golf tournament. Video of Trump teeing off is going viral while he's being criticized for enjoying while the others suffer. Donald Trump has been caught struggling to pronounce a major country's name while speaking from the Oval Office. The president was live on TV while signing executive orders over the weekend when he discussed his difficulties with the name Qatar. Speaking to reporters while hunched over his desk, he said, "So we will probably stop at UAE and Qatar," pronouncing the Middle Eastern nation's name as Qatar. He soon corrected himself and complained that nobody pointed it out to him before.
So we'll probably stop at UAE and Qatar, and as I used to call it, Qatar. Nobody's ever told me, right or wrong, I always like to say Qatar, but it's Qatar. They like to say Qatar.
That's all in this edition of World Today. Thank you for watching. But before I go, Pikachu, a Pokemon character, has now become the new face of resistance. A protester dressed as the character of Pikachu was spotted amid the hands-off protests against the US president and his administration in Washington. Pikachu character was seen walking next to a group of female protesters, seen holding handmade posters against Trump's governance, which read, "Make America Poor Again, and there will be hell to pay," or to pee, to pay. Not only in America, Pikachu character was also seen rallying against Israeli government in Tel Aviv on Sunday. Earlier, Pikachu was also spotted in Turkey during a protest against Erdogan government's move to arrest two-time mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu. That's all in this edition. Enjoy the visuals. Goodbye and take care.